Hey there, Parker Reed here, and welcome to PR Media, your home for everything movies and music through my eyes. And today we're going to be counting down my top 10 worst 4K Blu-ray releases of 2021. Yesterday I did the top 10 best, and today it's going to be the ugly stepsister of that list. The releases that land on this list land there because either the transfer was bad or the audio was bad, the movie itself is horrible, or the packaging just made it so awful you never want to put it back on your shelf. So let's get into the top 10 worst 4K Blu-ray releases of 2021. But first, let's start with 5 dishonorable mentions, movies that were really bad in the 4K format, but they weren't quite bad enough to land in the top 10. The first dishonorable mention we have is Animal House. This is a classic frat movie from the 70s, but overall the transfer was just super freaking grainy. There wasn't a lot of detail here, and it was just a ho-hum transfer, pretty disappointing for such a classic film. Next up, we have Spaceballs. Spaceballs is a movie that does not scream 4K. I need this to be on 4K. It was just a ho-hum transfer. It got pretty expensive towards the end of things. And overall, I just did not remember reviewing this, and I did, so go figure there. The next dishonorable mention we have is News of the World starring Tom Hanks. This movie is okay. I would rate it like a 6 out of 10. But when I watched this on 4K Blu-ray, it was just average. The detail really wasn't there. The HDR didn't do this movie any favors. Overall, this transfer is below average with just an average movie, so you can skip this. The fourth dishonorable mention really pains me because it's such a classic film. We have The Shawshank Redemption. The Shawshank Redemption is a great movie. It's a classic film and one of the best Stephen King adaptations there ever was. But the transfer here, boring, muddy, and there's a little bit more detail than Blu-ray, but not much. Disappointing transfer on a great movie. And the last dishonorable mention we have here is only not on the top 10 list because the transfer itself looks great and sounds great. We've got Mad Max, The Road Warrior. This is a classic film, just like some of the others on this list that I just mentioned, but there were some audio issues. This had to be recalled and taken off of shelves because they didn't make new audio transfers for this. They just downscaled the Dolby Atmos mix for the other lesser mixes, so people who don't have a Dolby Atmos setup, they are not getting the full extent of the audio they could, and it got recalled, so how could it not almost end up on the top 10 list? A great looking transfer for the most part, but a disappointing release when you factor in you can't even really buy it right now. And here we are, we're in the top 10 worst 4K Blu-ray releases of 2021, the shit stain, the Walmart bargain bin of 4K Blu-ray releases. And to start things off here, we've got Batman, Soul of the Dragon. This is one of the first releases in 2021, and it did not start things off on a great note. Why did this even get a 4K release? Why was this movie even made? Like a 70s disco ninja Batman film that doesn't even look good? The transfer itself doesn't even look good. This movie sucks too. So I don't know why this 4K release exists. I don't know why I bought it thinking it was going to be any different, because it wasn't cheap either. This is number 10 because it's a bad movie, bad transfer, and just kind of a what the fuck 4K Blu-ray moment. I'll have to admit, the number 9 release is one I didn't even watch in the 4K format. That's because I fell asleep twice in the theater while watching it, and that never really happens. So, number 9 is Space Jam: A New Legacy, a movie so bad it should have never even ended up on physical media to begin with. Fuck you, LeBron James and Warner Brothers, for even putting this out. Space Jam was a product of the 90s, and it should have stayed in the 90s, because this is a piece of fucking trash. Coming at number 8 is a movie and a video that is kind of synonymous with my channel at this point. It's a movie I thought was going to be kind of a parody, but ended up just being a porn. That's Sex World from Vinegar Syndrome. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd be watching a physical porn on my 4K TV. It was an odd experience, a kind of unsettling experience, and it's not even a good porn. I did skip through it, and it's not even that good. You can get a lot better stuff on the internet for free, so stay away from this damn video. It's such an oddity that I've got to keep it in my collection though. The 7th worst 4K Blu-ray release in 2021, at least for me personally, is Shrek. I love Shrek. It's a classic animated film, but the CGI on this did not age very well. It looks pretty poor, and the 4K format really brings all that out. Unless you're going to do like a full redo of this movie and redo all the CGI, this is not worth putting out on 4K Blu-ray. It doesn't look great. It looks choppy. The frame rate is... This whole release just shuddered to me. Just stay with the Blu-ray or even DVD. It'll mask those imperfections a little bit better, because this release, it didn't look very good. Coming in at the number 6 spot is a film that represents that every movie doesn't need to go to the 4K format. That's Transformers the movie. The animation on this film is incredibly dated back to the 80s, and it does not transfer well. It shows that a lot of the 4K format can bring out the imperfections in the movie, so if the source material isn't good enough to bring it to the 4K format, you don't need to do it. And I'm sure this movie didn't sell like hotcakes either, so the fact that it came to the 4K format and didn't look fantastic was disappointing for a lot of fans, and for me, it's like, what's the fucking point? Yeah, it's the best it's ever looked, but it still looks hella rough, so why would you want to pop this in? Just pop in a DVD, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy your time a lot better. Coming in at the number 5 spot is one of my most anticipated 4K Blu-ray releases of 2021, so it pains me to have to put it there. It's Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is a movie I really enjoy, and rewatching it on the 4K format was great. It doesn't look much better than the Blu-ray because they don't have a lot to work with. The original negative is destroyed or lost or whatever, and they can't go back to it. So it looks maybe a percentage point better than the Blu-ray does. But besides that, it ends up on this list because of the awful packaging. I don't know what Criterion was thinking with this release, but we have a decent enough slipcover. But then to get at the discs, you have to like fold out this weird ass like, what is this? It's like, oh look, and the booklet's just hanging there, like you can just fall out like, oh look, I dropped it. It's like, what the hell is going on? And I do not like the slip covers either. Like, not slip covers, I mean just slip cases where discs can fall out willy-nilly. Like, what the hell's going on? And I feel like I have to like perform surgery to get the 4K disc out. I'm going to scratch it. What the hell, Criterion? I paid like $40 for this. This is not excusable. And how did you do Citizen Kane like this? This is absolutely fucking ridiculous. If you thought the packaging on Citizen Kane was bad, let's try the number 4 entry on this list. It's the Indiana Jones 4-movie collection. All 4 of these movies look good on the format and they sound good in the format, but that's not why this release makes this list. That's because the steelbook packaging on here is the worst I've ever seen on physical media, period. I mean, the steelbooks themselves, they look good, they're kind of minimalist, but the packaging on here, I mean, it's the most flimsy shit. I mean, and you can like take it out. It's like, if you watch my review of this, you can see just how truly bad it is, because everything is housed in this box. And look, I just took the packaging out with it. I just took the goddamn packaging out of the box itself. It shouldn't come out of there. When the Rambo set gets better packaging than that, that's ridiculous. These are classic films, and look at how cheaply made that is. Like, what's protecting your steelbooks? The fucking air? God, fuck this release. So here we are, we're at the bottom of the barrel. It is the last 3 releases on my top 10 worst 4K Blu-rays of 2021, and all 3 of these movies are on here because the transfers themselves are not very good. So at number 3 we have Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds. This looks like an upgraded DVD sometimes. It looks like an oversheen Blu-ray. The HDR here makes it look like there's an Instagram filter over the entire film. I've seen quite a few apologists of this transfer be like, no, it looks a lot better. Yeah, sometimes the detail is better, but everything else looks like shit. And in a lot of ways, the Blu-ray looks better. I'm not a fan of this release, and they better do better if they release Pulp Fiction this year. Coming in at number 2 is the literal shit of a transfer. It's Space Jam. We've got dual Space Jam on the top 10. How great for that franchise. And just like Shrek, the CGI on here did not transfer well. You can tell they're on his green screen for 90% of the movie. Michael Jordan looks like he's in a virtual world, that not intentionally a virtual world. It looks like he's disconnected from the rest of the characters. This transfer here shows that not every movie needs to come to the 4K format. Sure, you can make a few extra bucks, and I'm sure Space Jam sold pretty well, especially when you had that awful sequel hanging around there. But the transfer is just awful. It doesn't look good. It sounds okay, and the soundtrack is still banging. But the transfer, this ruined one of my favorite childhood films. It was not good. Well, here we are, the top of shit mountain. This transfer was awful, and it was a movie I really enjoyed from 2020. So the fact it wasn't done justice, and they made it muddy and dark, and it wasn't great. They really did a disservice too. Nobody is the worst 4K Blu-ray release of 2021 for me. Like Inglourious Basterds, I've seen some apologists of this, but the fact that I had to pause this and take out the disc while I was watching it 20 minutes in to make sure I put in the 4K version and not the Blu-ray, that's a fucking problem. This is basically John Wick, but in a more comedic sense, and it just didn't do it any justice. The John Wick transfer looks fantastic, and this looks like garbage, and that's why it's my least favorite 4K Blu-ray of 2021. There you have it, the worst 15 releases of 2021 on the 4K Blu-ray format. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw here, you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram. And like, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. My name is Parker Reed. You've been watching PR Media. Keep supporting physical media, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. See you in 2022.